Hi guys, welcome back to season 2, episode 3 of Pick Up the Mic. So today we're joined back with good old Jeffrey and Sam. Do you guys want to say hi?
Hey, welcome back everyone.
As always, it's a pleasure to be here, everyone. So thank you for coming back for another episode.
Today we're going to be joined by Michelle and we're going to be talking about environmental anxiety. So Michelle, would you like to jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. Hi, I'm Michelle Sambo. I'm from Venezuela. I partly grew up in Saudi Arabia and I've just finished my product design degree. And I'm really passionate about the environment, environmental issues, as well as helping children learn. And I did my dissertation on helping children deal with environmental anxiety. So yeah, that's me.
Amazing. That sounds really nice. And yeah, I think we're all passionate here about the environment. I know Jeffrey and Inoshka, we always have got topics of conversation about environment, and what we don't really talk about is the environmental anxiety. So out of interest, what can cause it?
Well, it's environmental anxiety refers to the feelings of worry related to global climate crisis, as well as a threat to environmental disaster. So what causes it is mostly just the environment getting worse, as well as like the way that people talk about the environment in the media and things like that. So obviously, like as much as it can affect everyone, young children and people in younger generations are worstly affected due to the fact that we, unlike older generations, are like factfully, I don't know if that's a word, obviously aware of the fact that climate change will affect the way that we live our life, and it will make changes in our lifetime to the way that we live, which is mostly why it's worse. But it can affect everyone, and it is basically just caused by the worsening of environment and environmental issues, as well as just like natural disasters and just knowing that things are being caused due to climate change.
Yeah, that's understandable, because obviously, you know, people get anxious about something happening in their environment just anyway, and just, you know, growing up in a generation where you're told from when you were born until whenever, it will never stop, that the environment is changing, it's going to affect your life in so many different ways, and they're not good ways, is it's really, although the BBC released a statement, I think they had to turn it down, but it's for kids. Ironically, it would stop environmental anxiety, but it was saying the 10 good things about climate change. And one of them was apparently Greenland was going to be melting, so there would be more access to oil from that region. And I was just like, what? Along with things like you'll be able to go on holiday in the UK. I was just like, wow, this is very, very BBC. But the things I'd ever seen. But yeah, they took it down.
Yeah.
Lucky. But yeah, I mean, in general, like climate, any sort of climate change, whether it's like the environment or just someone's house changing, is scary enough. So an entire ecosystem, and I think humans are in tune with these sort of things, like just regardless of how we live our lives, we, you know, there's something subconscious, even if it's not conscious, about these changes. Yeah, thank you.
No, definitely. And also it's kind of like partly just the fact that like not only do we know that it's because like you can get it's obviously it's like PTSD if like you've had an climate disaster due to climate change, and that has like a whole nother effect. But actually just like worrying about the future can have like a bad effect on just like your mental health and just like the way that you deal with the fact, because obviously a lot of people are environmentally anxious, and sometimes that helps, and it's like, you know, like I'm going to do what I can. But then obviously it can become bad, because then you can become obsessed and you're like, everything I do, I'm doing absolutely everything I can. And it's not enough because I'm only this one person, and like governments aren't doing things, and it can just become like quite a bad. Well, it's not like it's a good feeling, but like it can just become obviously worse due to just how big it is and how insignificant one can feel when trying to tackle it.
Definitely. And as someone studying psychology, I haven't thought about this before, but it probably interacts with other neurological disorders or, you know, mental you know, your mental health in different ways. If there's already an underlying symptom, say you've got OCD, combine OCD with your environment's going to be destroyed unless you do these things. Someone on OCD could take that very seriously and get very anxious. If that doesn't happen, if they don't fulfill those steps to the extreme, then they could be very, very like, they could feel mentally that they're not ticking boxes that they need to tick. And that would be a very extreme case of environmental anxiety. And I bet it does happen. We have a little look into that later. I don't know if you've ever experienced anything or seen or heard of anything like that before. But.
Oh, definitely. Like that can completely happen. Greta Thunberg, I think that's his name. Yeah. So she did like this TED talk, and she was like, I think she's got something. I'm not sure what she's got. Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyways, basically, she said that when she was younger, she found out that, like, you know, climate change was a thing and it was getting bad and like people weren't doing things. And this girl was like, I think 8 or 9 years old, and she fell into a depression due to the fact that she knew like this was happening and she was doing what she could, but other people weren't. And it's just like, it really can take over you, because obviously you can do everything you can, but it is a problem that is bigger than, you know, it's bigger than yourself. It's bigger than one person. It like needs like community and governments to actually like try and do stuff, but that shouldn't like stop people from doing like caring for it and trying to do what they can, because it's obviously like people coming together to try and make it better.
Yeah. You're balancing like collective responsibility.
Exactly.
Versus, you know, I can't do anything, so it doesn't matter. It's like the same thing, you know, when you're a kid, like, you know, you're told, you know, don't litter. And, you know, they say if everyone littered, the whole place would be disgusting. Like you'd be walking around and there'd be so much litter. So like it starts with one person, and if everyone does it, then it's good. I mean, that's what I was told anyway. But.
No, exactly. But it is just the same mentality. It's just like, if you have that like plastic water bottle, then you're like, oh, but it was just me who's gonna water. But then now you see like the big like plastic huddle in the ocean that's just so big, and that's happened collectively, you know what I mean? Like it's about kind of noticing that and trying to mitigate that effect. Those are the right words. Yeah.
Wrap it over.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's true. And I feel like one of the things that both Michelle and Sam raised, which I think was really key, is this idea of change. Because obviously, I guess everyone's experienced their own version of change in their lives. Even as a whole human race, we've experienced like COVID has been a massive change. But I think the thing with climate change is it's one of those things where I know there probably still are a lot of people that are quite or have experienced anxiety because of COVID, but I think with climate change, it's one of those things where it's been creeping up. Like, you know, there's been subtle signs, but people have been saying like, oh, you know, you need to recycle more, or you need to reduce your plastic usage, or you need to, you know, don't take your car out if you're just going to literally go down the road. And then people are just like, oh, you know, it's cool. Like, if I don't have to do it because, you know, it'll be another generation's thing. And then I feel like now it's just reached that point where no, it's actually like people are saying like, we're at a tipping point. Like if you don't do it now, like you're not going to be enjoying the world later on. And I know even, I wouldn't necessarily say I felt like anxiety per se, but I definitely felt like conscious, because I know in class we had a discussion about like there's 4, I think they're just UK climate projections, but they were talking about like the different levels of warming. So like the one that everyone is thinking, even if everyone decides to do, you know, be super involved with like climate activism and taking these steps, is like 1.5 increase. And I know that was like, it's like, it'll be a bit warmer, like things will change, but we can manage. The one that's like the business as usual one was like the 2 degrees warming increase, which I know like everyone's just like, is very conscious about it. And that's like the worst one. Or it's not the worst one, but it's like, it's not great, but we can still manage, but it's still like, and I think that's what happens, especially for sometimes like some members of the older generations might feel like, okay, cool, you know, the younger people will sort it out, because there's always been that mentality of, you know, like my generation
problem, like
exactly,
it's not mine. Like someone's probably going to have to deal with it, but it doesn't seem like it's that big of an issue for me.
Honestly, and that's where these issues lie, and where anxiety can be caused, because there's this tendency, whether it's, I guess within, someone's family members might be like, I don't really want to walk to shop. I can just get the car. It'd be a lot easier. But you're just like, but no, like generally, like you're polluting the environment and you're doing loads. But I think it's like what you guys said. It's that idea of changing and understanding that, even, we said it before on the podcast as well, and I'm pretty sure everyone said it, that like that. And I love Tesco's, because even though they definitely weren't talking about climate change, their slogan works with everything. But this whole idea of like every little helps is just like so key. And it's so important to, especially with like climate activism, to just be that individual and make sure that every little thing that you're doing, even if you're just, I don't know, like you're the only one in your house that recycles, or you're the only one that has like a meat-free diet, you're still doing like a huge thing. So yeah, thank you both of you for all the key information that you've shared. So yeah, it's been a really good conversation so far. Very interesting, and we haven't even gotten to halfway, and we've had great discussions and great questions. So I'm happy all around. But we're going to be talking about still the idea of environmental anxiety. We're going to look at how specifically climate change. And Michelle, I just want to ask you, how has climate change played a part in increasing levels of environmental anxiety?
Well, obviously, like climate change and environmental anxiety are like directly related. But one of the things that has made like the most effect is definitely like the way that climate change is portrayed in the media. So like, for example, when our parents were younger, the media, it was very like the way that it was like in the newspapers and everything, like in shows and everything, how politicians talked about it. It was always like, is it a thing or is it not a thing? It was like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Like, and because it was so back and forth, because obviously like, people pushing their agendas, or like scientists trying to be like, no, it's actually an issue. Because of that, in our parents' generation, it just felt like such a secondary issue, because if people couldn't make their mind up about it, then why would you even bother trying to like do it? Because you're like, is it even real? I'm not that sure about it. Meanwhile, obviously, with like so much increased research and like just proof of the fact that, climate change is an issue and it is caused by us, like with all of that emerging, like just research and facts, that has kind of obviously changed that from being like from an if to a when, which has obviously like changed some people's minds. And especially, like I said, with young people, they're just like, this is a clear issue and this is going to happen in my lifetime. And I need, like, if I don't mitigate it, nobody else is going to. And like, obviously governments just do very minimal in comparison to like the issue. And companies don't really do that much either, other than like try and push a message without really doing anything. So it's just kind of like all of that coming together has just clearly, especially for our generation, just made that switch and been like, like I am scared. Like I'm not that sure what's coming next. And it's like my issue to deal with. And I think that's definitely one of the biggest things that's just increased those levels of environmental anxiety.
No, that's definitely true. And I definitely think, like you said, the more research, and I think, like key thing, the whole idea of it's not if anymore, it's when, it's so true. Because yeah, I think people would before just like, it could be, like you said, like it could be, it could not be, or it was like okay. It's one of those things where like 100 years, I won't be alive, so I don't have to worry about it. Exactly. Who cares?
No, you know what? Like maybe it is, but like it's not my issue. Like, when it happens, but it's just not for me.
Honestly, and now people have just like got in the mindset of no, actually, it's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen a lot sooner than you think if you don't start working on it. But yeah, I think that's definitely super key and so true. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, that was a really good discussion, guys. Thanks for that. So now we're going to have our new co-host, Yashika, ask the next question.
That was a great answer to the question. So next, who inspired you to do product design?
Well, to be fair, this is an interesting one because I didn't really know about product design. I didn't really know what design was until I kind of turned up to uni. Like, originally I was going to go to uni and do like psychology and math. And I'm really glad I didn't do that because I'm not very good with words. But yeah, I was like going to do my application, and one of my art teachers just like randomly mentioned it to me and was like, hey, why don't you look into product design? And I was like, what is that? Like, literally never heard of it before in my life. And then I went home for half term and was looking through, and I was like, oh, this seems really interesting. And that was honestly how it was pretty much. But it's quite funny because when I was younger, my dad used to always like tell us like, oh, like, can't wait for you to like invent something so that we can all get rich. And well, in theory, that's basically like what I've graduated to do. So, you know, it kind of just happened, but I wasn't really like, it wasn't something that I really knew what it was before. Oh, that's sun. But yeah, that's, I don't, can you see me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Got some nice lighting there. Yeah,
It's just so bright.
awesome to see how.
But yeah, I've never,
It's so cool to see how you went from like maths and things, and then to product design. That's really cool.
yeah. Well, I've always been like, at school, I've always been really like good at math, and I always enjoyed doing it, as well as like doing art. Like those were like the two things that I always like really liked to do. And originally they were like the only thing that you can do with both of those is architecture. And I mean, I think my mom did architecture for a little bit, but it wasn't something that interested me as much because it just seemed like, I don't know, just, it's cool, but most buildings end up being just like simple, and I just wanted to do something a bit different. And honestly, like finding out about design was like my savior, because I put so much effort into like my uni stuff, and I don't think I could have put nearly as much effort into anything else. Like, I don't know, I just don't think I could have done it with so much passion and like actually gotten through like all the late nights and all those things if it wasn't for design. Like, I'm so glad I found out what it was and went to uni to do it. So yeah.
Nice. So glad you're hating on psychologists. That's amazing. You know, like we basically not a job. No, I'm joking. No,
Like, I'm not.
I was going to do psychology, but then I realised psychology isn't even a degree. No, I was joking. You didn't say that.
No. I wasn't going to say that.
I was joking.
Like,
I was going to say now. Yeah. No. What kind of design do you want to go into? If you got like a particular type, so I know some people do like product design for like they make cuddly toys for Disney, you know, like you can make a little Elsa plushie or whatever, or you know, like designing stuff for hospitals. So like what kind of
I mean, well, I'm not that sure. So like I said, I didn't really know what design was until I turned up to uni, and like now that I've gone to uni, I know obviously a lot more about it, sure, but I still don't think I know like all of it. Not that maybe I'll ever know all of it, but I'm still I think there's a lot of areas that I've still not actually been like exposed to. I know I quite like graphic design because it kind of just feels like art, but online, I guess. And I'm, like I said, I really like art, but I also, I really like designing for children. That's a passion I didn't really realize I had until placement. Because during placement, I did like half of it at a school and I was like helping children learn. And I just really, really enjoyed that. But then also for the second half, I went to Denmark and had a 7-month placement at Lego. And that was super fun. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, it was great. So yeah, I think from what I know, I like graphic design and I like doing stuff for children. Because kids are just fun. Like, I
guess could you do like, I don't know what sort of like artistic skills comes with your course, things like that. Like, could you do like illustrations for kids, but like online illustrations, so they can like create like learning environments where they've got like someone, I don't know, it could be a little character to like help them progress.
Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely something that I'd like to do. Like, I quite like doing illustrations and stuff. But yeah, for my major project, I've mentioned it already in the podcast, but like I obviously did a like whole project based around helping children learn how to deal with environmental anxiety and how to create a deeper connection with nature in order to help them with environmental anxiety.
Yeah, so you were mentioning again like about how you're bringing in, through your placement, through your final project as well, bringing in like educating children about like climate anxiety and things like that. And I remember when I was at school, they were teaching us a lot about climate change, and it was sort of the beginnings of the period before it was like, oh, this might be happening, this might not be happening, and then it's like, oh, it's happening. Turn off the lights, kids, and recycle. And obviously, times have changed even more now, and it's gone on like hyperdrive. Climate anxiety is probably, getting more and more prominent. Even though, Elon Musk is going to Mars, and some billionaires are flying ships into space for some reason. But regardless of that, anxiety because of climate change is definitely still happening. And I was just wondering, how schools and colleges, in your opinion, and this probably ties into what you were saying before about your final project, but how that can tie in with engaging with their community and methods they can use to sort of, I guess, help still spread the message of climate change, but without the anxiety.
Well, I think it's there's two sides of the coin. So obviously one of them, it's climate change is a systemic issue, and a systemic issue requires systemic changes. So for that, it's obviously just working towards as communities being as environmental as they can be in multiple aspects. So not quite just spreading people should do this and people should do that, but as colleges and schools actually, go out of their way to do their bit so that it is easier for the students to actually do their part. But in addition to that, one of the things I think, especially in younger schools with younger children and things, one of the things that I think is really important is, and I did a lot of research for this for my major project, it's just helping children have a deeper connection with nature and just actually creating that connection, whether it's spending time outdoors, but also making sure that you are enjoying the time outdoors, you're doing things that engage you with nature, because it was actually shown that I don't know if I've said this fact already, but whilst environmental knowledge, so that's just knowing about the issues, environmental issues, is accountable for 2% of pro-nature and pro-environmental behavior, having already a connection with nature is accountable for 69% of pro-environmental behavior. So that kind of shows that just because you know the issue doesn't always mean you'll act upon it. Meanwhile, if you have a deeper connection with nature, you're way more likely to actually act upon it. But it also has proven to help. It's proven to also come with whoever is connected to nature to feel better about the situation, despite how bad it is, just because they can have that sense of oneness and realize we are one. We need to get together and really fight this, because without the earth, we are nothing. We're on this earth, and it's all that, just that whole coming together.
It's decent, yeah. And I guess again, having in our minds, we're sort of very taken away from nature, put into the working environment, put into the man-made world, and the natural world is sort of just that's just for us to exploit when we need food and when we need resources and stuff. But actually, sort of giving people a connection, saying actually, you live in this, we're all connected, it's one system. Exactly. It doesn't have a boundary. There's no here's a city and here's nature. Cities have less natural appeals to them, but they're still part of nature. It's still inside a system which needs rain, different temperatures, as we're realizing now. It's a really hot time, and in London that gets overheated, and in other parts of the world as well. If you just think about the effect that then has, is that it's not just nature will be destroyed. It's also the towns and cities. But that's if they're unlivable, and things will become unlivable the more the climate changes. So it is this holistic view of interdependence and but also you're saying a raw connection with nature, the world. I guess realizing that the earth is sacred in the sense that it is what everyone depends on. There's no disconnect. You can't be disconnected from it. you need it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, not only do you need it, but having that sense of connection also helps. Like, just the realization, like creating better habits and things like that just becomes easier. It just becomes way more obvious, because when you like have that connection with nature, you're like, obviously, like, I live here, you know, like for me to stay here, for me to like be able to thrive, I like, we need nature and nature needs us. Like, we need to all like come together and like actually have everything work as one, because like, if we don't have, you know, if we don't care for the environment, then like everything's just like, we're not going to have rain, we're not going to have food, we're not going to have all these things. And it's like, we need all these things to live, and they need all these things to live. And it's just kind of like having that connection just helps a lot of pieces, I guess, come together easier.
I guess also about having like an emotional interaction, an emotional relationship with nature, in the sense that, you know, yeah, like you're saying, it's not just about people like needing each other, but also just about like, you know, this is my enjoyment. This is like, I have a relationship with this, you know, this forest and stuff like that. Like, imagine if kids couldn't go around in forests, like the world would be
Exactly.
you know, it was just a concrete jungle. Like, yeah. But yeah. Or you know, like you were saying, it wouldn't produce as much, like, you know, like it's harder to say, like, someone's been living in the forest, like, oh, you know, this forest, it requires air to breathe, and that's what keeps it going, otherwise it won't be here. And then that's easier to understand if you walk around the forest more. But if you don't, then, you know, it's harder to think, like, why would my action affect anything? Like,
Exactly.
Effect.
Yeah, it just makes like understanding that you actually play a part so much more, because you're like, oh, I'm so small, like, I don't, like, whatever I do doesn't matter. But just like having that realization just makes you notice, like, actually my actions make a difference, even if it's a small difference. The small difference in the right direction, and a small difference from everyone is a big difference. Every little helps.
You also mentioned like there's loads of Indigenous communities as well, which get impacted by this, and no one knows about it.
Yeah, no, definitely that as well, because Indigenous communities have like not proved, but like they live in a way that like they engage with nature, and they're constantly like, as much as nature gives to them, they give back, because they like understand the importance. And again, like when I was doing this research, like I found out so much about how like actually we need to like adopt way more like Indigenous ways of being, because they're so much more sustainable, they're so much more like caring for the environment, pro nature, all that stuff. And they have all these like thousands of years of knowledge that has been passed down, and it's just like so important to like actually, like, obviously it's difficult for governments to do that, but it's just like actually listen to the knowledge that they have to pass down, because like they have perfected it, you know what I mean?
They haven't survived for fun.
Like they've survived trying, and it's important to like actually be able to notice that they've got it way better than we have, like at least with the understanding of how to make things work. So yeah, no, that's definitely true.
Yeah, and I think I know we weren't recording this when you said it before, but I think the point you raised before of this, you know, you raised it there, this understanding of like we used, I guess, I mean, we still do today, but a bit more before in history, that we used to like live off the land, and what you had was what you used. And it really like highlighted that theme of, you know, meeting the needs of today without compromising the needs of the future. And yeah, that's definitely something that you know, schools need to take into account. I know Sam was talking about what his school was doing with regarding climate change. And I know even, so for my primary school, I know as well, we weren't too far from Hampstead Heath. So we would always go to like Hampstead Heath. We'd always do like a sports day there. So we would like running around in the heath. And we'd always like go there, do like nature stuff there as well, which was really fun. I know even my secondary school is probably where it hit home the most, was because they had a whole emphasis of the design and built environment. And that was literally even though they were just, I don't know, like secondary schools most of the time don't necessarily focus on a specific thing. It's focused specifically on this design and built environment. And like even, and I think that's what's also, I think with newer schools, there's that opportunity to do it more so than schools that have been built like this for thousands, maybe not thousands, but for hundreds of years at least. There's this emphasis that you can use the designing of the school to highlight like issues like climate change. So I know one of the things that they raised at the school was the school was built in a way that it was utilizing the environment. There were loads of windows everywhere, so you could always have that view to the nearby like wildlife and nearby bits of nature. There was always this emphasis of they tried to, I don't know if they did in the end, but they wanted to like have like clean energy, so like putting solar panels or using I think they had like wind turbines as well. So I think that's definitely a key thing. And like even schools starting to, I guess even the way it's built, because I know, everyone loves to say, everyone likes to say, practice what you preach. And I think that's definitely super key. So yeah, thank you very much for that, Michelle.
No, honestly, like that's completely, like, that's exactly right. Like as much as spreading the message is important, it's also just about like practicing what you preach, because if you preach something you don't practice, then the people around you who you're preaching it to are not going to see the importance, because you clearly also don't. Like, it's just systemic problems require systemic changes.
Exactly. I think that's a perfect slogan. And I guess anyone listening, even yourself, when you create this project or this product, sorry, I should say, don't forget us. And I think that's a catchy slogan to put underneath whatever name you call your company. Just like systemic problems need systemic change. I think that's. I think you've got your slogan right there. So yeah, thank you very much for all the insight you've given, and thank you everyone else as well. It's been a very interesting question.
Thanks for that, Michelle. That was really insightful. And again, yeah, thanks for everyone else who spoke too. So. In the last question, you spoke about how schools and colleges can help tackle environmental anxiety. But how do you think students, like where can they go to find more information or support for environmental anxiety, especially if they don't know a lot about it?
Yeah, that's also really interesting, a slightly difficult question, actually, just because I think I mentioned this before already, but environmental anxiety is actually like quite a new, like, as much as it's not like a new feeling, like it's definitely something people have been feeling for like years and years, but as a concept, it's still quite new in a way. So to go for like find like information, more importantly, like obviously like, talk to people about it and things. But also I think a lot of it comes down to like doing like your own research. That like for now, there's only so much that's like out there specifically for environmental anxiety. Like I said, it's like a very specific thing. But also just like going, like being part of like climate change, like justice groups and stuff. I think they're quite good communities to like be part of that, obviously completely understand the feeling, like, or will be there to talk. And obviously just like counseling and things like that as a whole, but more specifically with environmental anxiety, it's just like being around and also being able to talk to people who like understand the specificity of the problem. Because like, again, it's not like an anxiety like, oh my God, there's a spider, what am I going to do? It's so much more like the world's falling apart in our hands and we can only do so much. Like it's a big issue to try and deal with on your own, like, and to just even understand, like, even just, again, doing my project, it brought so much light and understanding to like ways that I felt like I was always like, oh, I really care for the environment. Like, oh, like we've got it real bad. Oh my God. But I never like truly realized that it was like an actual thing. I was just like, maybe I'm over worrying it. Like maybe I should, like, why am I so worried? Like everyone seems to just be doing fine. And I'm like real stressed about this on the daily. And I think it is just like, I get, like I said, doing the research just helped me understand so much more. Like, I'm not crazy. Like a lot of people feel this way, but on top of that, it's just like feeling that way, like badly doesn't help the situation. Like having a little bit obviously helps you like try and keep going with like the green things that you do and being more environmental, but being stressed out about it every single day, like doesn't bring you like any help. It honestly just makes the situation worse. And for a lot of people who like don't even understand the issue and they're just like, I'm stressed, why am I stressed? And they're like, the world's gonna end. And that often can make people, instead of actually act upon it, do the opposite and be like, well, it's gonna end anyway, like why should I care? So yeah, I think it's just a lot about like being able to find people like climate justice groups and like climate change communities and stuff that just like want to be greener so that you can have that safe space to talk about how you feel and just understand like it is a big issue, but all you can really do is your part, and you can't do much more than your part. Like doing your part isn't important, and you know, pushing for people to do better and pushing for governments to like do better obviously is important, but you can't like kick yourself in the backside for feeling like you're not doing enough, because the fact that you're doing anything at all is already like commendable. Do you know what I mean? It's just, yeah, it's a difficult, like, because there isn't anywhere like specific, you know, it's like, it's just, you gotta find the places that will be the most helpful, I guess.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, it's right what you're saying about there's no point in you just getting stressed and constantly anxious about it, because it's just going to affect your health.
Yeah. And that's going to be so many worse things.
Exactly. And then you're going to be stressed about that, and you're also going to be sick, and it's not going to help.
And it's just, we're trying to tackle the issue, because
no, exactly.
Otherwise we won't make it anywhere.
And again, like, it is exactly as you said, you just have to do whatever you can, and I guess you just have to hope that everyone else is doing their part, even if they're not, which, let's be honest, people aren't, but there'll be some people, just not enough. Exactly. I don't know. It's a difficult one, actually.
It's definitely a difficult one, but it's just like I said, it's doing your part and like, you know, trying to not push people, but kind of nudge people in the right direction.
Kind of educate them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so much more just about education and understanding and just being like, not you have to do this, because if you tell someone you have to do it, they're not going to want to do it.
They're not going to do it, yeah.
Yeah, it's like just trying to like nudge people in the right direction, being like, oh, I do this. And they're like, because if you do things, then people will be like, oh, why'd you do that? And I'm like, oh, well, you know, it does this little bit, that's a little better. It's like, oh, why do you carry a bag with you all the time? Well, then I don't need to get a plastic bag. Like, it is just the little things that move on to better things.
Yeah, exactly. Like small things like, reusable water bottles. That's like not everyone. A lot of people do that. But like, I don't know. I mean, I carry bags around with me all the time, like for shopping and stuff. But a lot of other people that I see don't. And they just use the 5p plastic bags. And I mean, surely it's okay to just keep, one bag in your bag, which you take out with you. I don't know.
But it's like habits. It's like just habits. Like there's like, for example, whenever I'm home, like I'm, if you haven't noticed, like pro the environment, and my parents are like not that bothered. So every time I'm out with them, they're like, oh, we're gonna go food shopping, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, let's get the bags. And they're like, oh yeah, I guess let's get the bags. Like it's just, they're like, they don't think about it because they normally just get like a bunch of new bags at the grocery store, and they're like not that bothered. But then I'm like, no, let's pick up the bags. And it's just like with me, kind of just slightly pushing them to do it. Like my mom called me the other day and she's like, you won't believe it, I brought my own bag to the supermarket. And I was like, nice. Well done. It's like, it is just like trying to push something a little bit enough, just being persistent enough that it might cause a change.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think I can't remember in one of the other episodes that we did, Jeffrey was saying as well, in my house, we have a bag full of plastic bags from like all those 5e bags. We have them all and we use them for everything. I'm not going to waste them. Like, if it can be reused, like
literally.
But so many people just throw them out. Why? Just have a bag of bags.
Yeah, like a bag of bags is helpful. You always need a bag. Like, realistically, there's always a reason why you need a bag. Whether it's plastic or not, you always need a bag. And just have them at home. At least you don't need to buy them again. Like,
no, exactly. Even if it's for waste purposes, like just use it.
Exactly. Like, it's just, there's no reason why you wouldn't.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, get a few uses out of it, and then okay, fine.
Exactly. It's literally like, it's just about creating the habit, because it's so hard to not do something if you're just not used to it. But if you just begin to get a little used to it, then you're like, wait, look at me. I'm so excited.
Look at me go. I got to tell everybody.
Yeah, literally. My mom's like, oh my God, look at me go. Like,
Michelle, I got a bag.
Yeah, literally. She was like,
she must have been so happy.
No,
but
that was a really, really good answer. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I think even with the plastic bag thing, I think I saw a meme on Instagram. I think it was either last week or the week before, where they were basically saying like the many uses of these like plastic bags. So they were saying like shoe covers. If it's raining and you don't have an umbrella, you can use it as an umbrella if you really want to. Like Lanishka said, like using it to keep your other plastic bags, like all of these things. And it was just like, yeah, there are so many uses, like ways you can use them that you can't even like justify just like using it, like just buying it and then just binning it. And I know even like Michelle was saying about like a family using plastic bags. I know when they introduced it at first, I know like my family, it took time for them to like get into the habit of like bringing our own bags. I think especially because you'd bring up the bags from the car and then you'd completely forget to put them back in the car. And then it'd literally just be a case of you're at the shopping, you're just like, yeah, I bought the shopping. And then you're just like, oh yeah, but no bags. So I think now what we've been doing has been like really useful. So like anytime we go up or like we go shopping and we take everything into the house, we'll then just always like make sure like on the day or even the day, like the next day, if someone's like going out, they can just quickly just drop the bags back in the car. So there's always a set of bags in the car that when we do go shopping, like we can do that. I think at most, if that doesn't happen, I think what we just do is we just pack it into the car anyways. And then when we don't use a 5p bag, and then we'll just get into the habit of like putting it in the car. And then when we get home, we'll just put it in the bag and take it up like that. But yeah, I think like you said, it's like introducing these small habits. It might not necessarily feel like a lot, like just not using a 5p bag every once in a while might not feel like much, but it's definitely is a really good thing.
You should have told that idea to my mum, because honestly, like every single time we get to the place where we're going to shop, and then she's like, I've left the bags. I'm there waiting 5 minutes for her to go to the car, get the bags, then come back, and I'm just like, this is embarrassing.
Sorry.
If only she just loaded it into the car, then we could have banned it later. That's a good idea.
Thank you. And yeah,
do you just stand at the till like, my mum's coming back, I promise? You're that kid, aren't you?
I swear.
Standing with the tray.
What you do that?
5 hours later, oh well.
His wife is coming.
oh my gosh. But yeah, if there's anyone listening, yeah, I think Sam's shown it, but it's a key tip that you can take forward. But yeah, thank you everyone for all those ideas. And even if if you've got some that you do that we haven't shared on the podcast, whether it's with your family or you do it with your friends, or even if you do it yourself, you're more than welcome to let us know on Instagram or put it on the website, and we can discuss it in our next episode. So yeah, thank you very much everyone for the great conversation. As always, I say it's been an amazing conversation, and today has, I think, exceeded our expectations. It's been really good to learn about, environmental anxiety. I know there's some of us in the audience, even some of us, on the team that didn't know a lot about it. But yeah, this conversation has been really good to learn more about it. And yeah, if you have started to look at it, look it up and learn these things, just make sure that you do, in the future, you can research these topics. And there's not loads, I won't lie. Even looking for the MC for this episode, it was tough. But there is a lot of information and articles that do go into like what environmental anxiety is and what you can do to, help, reduce a person's anxiety as well. So yeah, got nothing to worry about there. But yeah, now on to our newly added section where we get our guest speakers to ask us a question. So Michelle, please, over to you. Could you please ask us your question?
Yes. Okay, cool. So my question to you guys is, how do you think environmental anxiety has or might affect your life?
Yeah, so I'll go first. I think it's made me more conscious, I guess, of not only like as an individual, what I do to help tackle climate change or any environmental issue as a whole, but like what either as like a family or like as a university, or if there's somewhere that I work or wherever I study, things like that. It's made me think about like what they do as well. Because I think, I know we discussed in the show about other stuff as well, but I think especially nowadays, there's this tendency for people to, like not only like individuals, but organizations as well, to be like, yes, climate change is bad. we will tackle it. And then it's just like, okay, that's great. What are you doing to tackle it? And they'll just be like, look, guys, we will tackle it. Don't worry. But you're just like, no, but seriously, like, what are you doing? And there's always this like silence, or like you get a long answer and it's just like, yeah, that's great, but that's not telling me what you're doing. So I think it's like made me think more of when I do like if there's an organization I want to work for, now that I've graduated, I think like, what are they doing to be to tackle it? Even if it's like an environmental organization, like their whole premise is to promote and protect the environment. I like always want to know, like, what are you doing to help to tackle it or tackle environmental issues, but also what are you doing to educate people as well? Because like I've said it before and I'll say it again, I think that educating people is the main thing, and sort of like not necessarily, because I think that's the tendency as well with some of these topics, that it's like education, not necessarily from above, but it sort of seems like, I don't know, I'm trying to word it in a way that it doesn't seem like too rude, but like not necessarily saying like, using like technology, or not technology, like terms that people and terminology that people might not know, and they'll feel like, I don't know, you're like dumbing it down for them by like making it basic. But no, there's like words, even like I've said it before when we did the revision tip, that like there's sometimes when I have to like go back to basics when I was studying, if there were topics that I didn't know about or keywords that I didn't know, and I guess it's that way of just doing it to people, like giving them this information to help them understand it in that way. So I think personally it does worry me. I do sometimes worry about what we're going to do about climate change and what the world will be like, but I think sort of like you were saying before, Michelle, that it does, I sort of use it as like a motivator. So whether it's through, the things we do on the podcast, whether it's through the things I do in my, personal life, even as a family, I know my family are tired of me literally, when it hits the end of the day, literally going around, turning off sockets, unplugging stuff that's not being used. I think my family's at the point where they're super annoyed, but even like, I know my sisters started to do it as well. And I know even, I know for definite, Anushka can attest to this. I know where we worked at Brunel in the STEM team, even there, like I put up like posters where they like put up, like, please turn off all, like if you're in the room, turn off the lights if you're not using it anymore. The good thing about those classrooms as well is because sometimes like when it was sunny, you don't necessarily need them on because it's really bright outside. So like things like that, I think using, I guess when you think about environmental anxiety, or when I think about it in my personal life, I just use it as like a motivator to keep going. Like I do want my children and my grandchildren and my future generations and descendants to live in a world. And even if my children ask me like, what do you want to do? What did you do to tackle climate anxiety, or like, what did you do to tackle climate change? I want to be able to say that I did do something. But that's me. And then just go as if just go as if you.
The question again.
No, that's all right.
Okay. So I'll go next. That was a really good answer, Jeffrey. So I'm that person that Jeffrey was saying in the team who didn't know that environmental anxiety was a thing. Yeah, that's me.
Honestly, like this year. Like
no, exactly. Like, I mean, I knew obviously that, obviously climate change is a thing, and I know that we have to do our part to help, but I've never really experienced it, which I don't know if that's bad or not. But I mean, because I feel like it's like you were saying in the last question, you can only do your bit and your best. And because I'm doing, I could do more, obviously, but I am doing stuff which, helps, I guess, like even Jeffrey was saying, turning lights off, like unused sockets, turning them off, using reusable bags, and, doing what I can. But yeah, I didn't really know it was a thing. Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you.
I think that's fair, though. I think, like, I didn't know it was a thing. I knew it was something that, like, I felt, but it was not something that I was like, because to be fair, like, at least for me, I'm quite like a stressy person. Like, I just get stressed about things easily. So, like, this is like a slightly different stress because it's just like, I'm normally stressed because, like, I don't know, I haven't done my work or I haven't cleaned my room or this, and I'm like, those are things I can clearly act upon that then will make it disappear. Like if I've cleaned my room, I am no longer stressed about cleaning my room. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, with at least like once you start feeling like things like feelings of environmental anxiety, it's just a bit stressful because it's just like, you know, I can use the bags and I can do this and I can do this, but like she's not going away. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, just like she's still right there. Like, please.
Yeah, which I think is just makes it stressful. But like, it's not. I don't think it's bad that you don't feel it. I think it just means you're like, you know.
And I feel like because back in like primary school, for example, they used to do this thing where you get these. I think they were called hedgehog badges. Whenever you'd walk to school for, I think I don't know if it was every single day of the month or like at least 20 to 30, like 20, 25 days out of the month, you had to walk to school. And, you know, I mean, that was obviously an incentive because you're like, I want the badge and I want every single one because I want that one that I want the October one for Halloween and I want the Christmas one and I want the Easter, like, you know. So I mean,
it's a thing for kids, like, because
exactly
to, like, do what they should, but also like a little incentive is kind of like
exactly
it's like competition, and competitions are always like
exactly, and it's just nice to be like, oh look, I got this because I walked to school. It's nice, you know. And I mean that kind of like stuck throughout because then we used to walk to secondary school and like, you know, it just it wasn't more like it wasn't like oh I have to go in the car. I can only go in the car. It's, you know, it just opened our eyes, I guess.
Exactly. It's the little habits. It's starting the little habits.
It's starting young as well, for sure.
Exactly. Starting early helps so much.
Because I feel like if we started this in secondary school, I would have been more reluctant to do it because I'd have been like, I'm too tired. But yeah.
No, 100%. Like, again, doing my major project, I did research on like kids and stuff, and it's like around ages between 7 and 8, there's like a peak in interest in like environmental issues and just caring, and then around like age 13, 14, there's like a downfall, and that's because you get to like, you know, secondary school and you have like boyfriends and grades and issues. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's kids who start worrying about things that don't matter as much. They overtake their life. So it's
exactly.
You need habits like that. If you start making them early, they're it for life, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, but I think that's why I didn't feel it, like the environmental anxiety. Like I know it's there, but I think that's why for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good. Less stressy, more act.
Exactly. I'm relaxed.
And then I was going to add, even the incentive thing you said was really good because I know, I'm not sure if guys listening or even you guys know about it. They stopped it, unfortunately, but I know they did in 2017, I think, in 2018. They were going around to like campuses on accommodation on campus, and we're literally just like, you know, reduce your energy usage for the month of, I don't know, let's say July, for example. And it was just like, you can do different things like, you know, making sure, like we said, like switching off switches and things like that. And they were just like, whoever wins, like that flat will get a pizza party. I think originally it started off as that block, but obviously, you know, that's a bit too much pizza. And then everyone would be like, yeah, I definitely live here. But yeah, even like incentives like that, they're like super good at helping like people to really engage with it. So I think, that's definitely true about having incentives. But yeah, Sam, if you want to go on to answer.
I can go on now. And I like, you know, before me, there's been the person with the climate anxiety that means he goes around his house turning off all the little switches and annoying his parents. And then there's an Anushka that didn't know what climate anxiety was. And again, nothing wrong with anything. But then as a psychologist, I've now got to psychoanalyze it, get out my leather armchair, lie down and and people can tell me all about their problems. But yeah, so I think in every society, every culture, there is definitely something in there that's like, look after the environment. You know, you go to like the Chinese, like the Tao, it's all about like nature, it's all about like water flowing and being connected to nature. In Buddhism, it's all about having like the compassion for even the creatures and the plants and everything, and sort of looking after the world. That's built in there. And for the Abrahamic faiths as well, there's even like laws where like if you invade like a city, you're not allowed to destroy the trees, you're not allowed to destroy the crops and like burn the land, which the Romans used to do quite a lot. But they had that in there because it's supposed to like protect the world. And so you're not allowed to do that. And these things are, and obviously like this is like 3,000 years ago plus all of these things have been being talked about and have been issues even then. And I think that just shows that there's something in the human psyche which is inherently concerned about where we live, for this thing to arise and for us to do it. So, and you know, there's this sort of like this spiritual connection again to like creating. It doesn't have to be spiritual, it could be mental, could be whatever, but it's just like it's this thing that's been in humans' minds for ages and has been governing what we do. And so I think like, yeah, I felt climate anxiety. I've at one point in my life I was very concerned about what was happening in the world, and it was like actually like preoccupying my mind quite a lot. And you know, just thinking, oh, it's going to be ruined like this. And every time I saw something that reminded me of that, I was like, oh, like that's awful, and it would really like throw me off. And I guess like for myself, getting over that has been more just like knowing that I'm doing what I can, continuing to do it, and just doing the little things like, you know, buy secondhand clothes or, you know, go cycling. So like, for example, when I leave, you know, this place I want to go, this place is uni. I'm gonna get the cycle to work scheme. Gonna get the cycle to work scheme and get a bike, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm just like living the life, you know, just make it a vibe.
No, but it is. It literally is. Like, I feel like the best way to get over the stress is just make it your thing. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, do what makes you feel better about it, however that is, as long as it's not too extreme. But obviously like I think you mentioned it before, like you're vegan, and that's like so good because that obviously makes such a change. And like, even I've tried to do that. Like, I'm not vegan, but like I eat vegan meals. Like whenever I cook at home, I don't have any meat. And it's just like, it is like, it's just about the little things, and all the little things just add up.
Yeah. And I think like, even though it was in our psyche, I think like there's so much noise going on in our everyday lives that it hasn't become like part of our process, like you're saying, become part of your vibe, become part of your sort of thing, because there's no way of like connecting to it because there's so much going on. You know, you got to think about your work, you got to think about getting your food, doing your cooking, doing all of this. And I think, you know, we're sort of so caught up in our own little world, sometimes we forget about the world. And so I think stuff like David Attenborough and programs like that, just like even, you know, like brings it into your home. You know, and you can see it, and he does, and he's made a big impact where he's, you know, he talks about climate change, and he shows you like, this is nature, this is what you lose, you know, this is what's going to go. Exactly. I think climate anxiety is just people being annoyed that their home is being burnt down in some way, and I think it's quite natural. You do feel it again, like just, you know, do what you can, and that's all you can do at the end of the day. And I'm sure, you know, everyone here, like I'm not perfect, so I still do things that like have a lot of damage to the environment, including like taking flights and doing things like that. Obviously I haven't been able to do it for a good long while now, but like, yeah, it's about doing what you can and, you know, being happy with that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I feel like the main thing, like, I know you said you're not perfect, but I feel like a lot of people are always like, you know, like, I'm not perfect, so I'm not going to do it. But it's not about being perfect. It's about being as imperfect as possible. Like, you know, it's doing what you can when you can. And then like, you know, if you do, like, you're not going to be perfect. Like, no one's going to be perfect. But if everyone's as imperfect as possible, then like, we're all doing what we can. And that's kind of what matters. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like that's one of the things that like gets me through it. I'm like, you know, I'm not great, I'm not amazing, but I do what I can.
Yeah. Yeah, don't get caught up on like some idea of like, I'm either going to be like completely, I'm not even going to breathe. Like, I'm not even going to use up the oxygen in the air. And then you just like crumble and die. And you're like, this is the end of me. Like, you know, like, yeah, okay, like you're going to do things that aren't, yeah, like, but that's just about living. Like people have been doing stuff for a while. It's just about reducing your impact. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just about reducing.
And yeah, Sam, I think you're right with saying that, you know, it's not something that happens, like it's not an overnight thing. Like you said, like it's we've lived this way for like a long time, and even, you know, getting used to things like meat-free meals for some people. They've probably like never done that before, vegetarian or vegan meals, and it's things like that, you know, just starting slowly. And I know we said it before, and I'll continue to say it, this idea of, doing these slow changes, whether it's you start off with just your bathroom routine or your kitchen routine, or even, how you shop for your clothes, and you then build up. So if it's, your bathroom routine, you're going to say, I might not necessarily, start using, I know, Sam, you said that you use, was it like shampoo bars?
Yeah,
I think you said,
yeah.
So like,
I've started using for my soap now.
Okay.
I'm starting to use this thing called Aleppo Soap. And what it is, it's a mixture of olive oil, laurel oil, and that's literally it. And then just some water.
Okay.
And they make it into a bar. And it's really like, it's naturally sanitizing, moisturizing, and this is literally all you need to do. And then it's been a natural process for like thousands of years. They've been using the same process. Literally doesn't do any. There's no chemicals, nothing bad in it. You just, like, that's not going to like damage the environment when it goes down the drain, and like, like the whole thing is just like a block, and it lasts like months, and that's all you need. It's like, it's really good.
Oh, it's sick, actually, because to be fair, because in the shower, there's obviously there's so many things that are really bad. But it was only like this year that I've started using like bar soap again, because normally it has to be like what was the words that I was gonna say?
In like a bottle.
Normally it has to be in a bottle, or like whenever you get like bar soap, it normally comes in like cardboard packaging as well, so it's just like a little bit better. Obviously I've always been like moving and stuff. Bar soap just always seemed like really impractical. But I got this little it's like a little net for your soap, and then you can hang that, and now I use it, and like the soap runs out kind of fast, but like it's really good, because then I'm like using bar soap again, and I'm like,
that's pretty decent. You can get little tins as well. You can get like a little
which I didn't know. I don't know where I've been, but like I just didn't know. But that's the thing, and like whenever I do something, even if it's little, I'm like,
yeah.
But yeah, I think you have to celebrate the little things that you do, and eventually, at some stage, you will then get to the point where like your whole bathroom routine or your whole kitchen routine is like, I don't know, like plastic free, for example, or is, the plastic usage is reduced loads. I know even like people might not necessarily, like bamboo toothbrush, people might not necessarily be on board with that like straight away. But yeah, it's one of those things where, if you start to build it up and you start to slowly do it, you will eventually get to the point where, your whole bathroom routine is plastic free. And then you'll be like, I don't use, and it'll just feel natural. And it's just one of those things, they say that it takes like 30 days to stick to a habit. I don't know if that's factually correct or someone just plucked that number out of thin air, but it takes time for a habit to stick. So it's just one of those things where you have to just keep going back to it, keep trying it, and then eventually, you'll get to a point where it's all natural, and it's like comes to you sort of like second nature. But yeah, sorry, Yashki, I know you wanted to go next about the question, so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so my environmental anxiety basically started in primary school, which is where like we were being taught they were teaching us about climate change and greenhouse gases. And at the end of the lesson, like our teacher stressed that we would be the generation to fix the globe, like the whole
climate crisis.
all the problems that we're facing today in terms of environmental changes and everything, and that we would be the saviors of the planet. And it was like, wow, that's a lot of responsibility to be carrying. Definitely scapegoats. And it got to a point where, as I was learning more and more about it in school and seeing, all the newspapers, like even recently we had the fire in the middle of the ocean, right, next to Mexico, and that was crazy. Like just seeing that, I was thinking like having wildfires in Australia, that was bad enough, and then seeing the ocean on fire. Does it get any worse than that, really?
Right, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think it's staying educated, and then seeing the news, staying educated in terms of the world. That's what sort of triggers my environmental anxiety. But and I think that's something that, whether you know or you don't, it's something that you've probably gone through just by seeing the things that have happened in the world. Yeah, but I think everyone has their own way of tackling it. I know that in my household, we have meatless Fridays and meatless Mondays, which is cool. we definitely try to stick to it. Yeah, and then I used to have like a shopping addiction, but now I prefer to buy off Depop, and I love going charity shopping as well. So yeah, I think definitely, just like you said, Michelle, like going out and finding your own way of making a difference and doing your part, which I think you can do and anyone can do in their own way and enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I totally agree with you. And like, I know you said you were like, what did you say? You said something about triggers. Honestly, like this is slightly irrelevant, but I feel like one of the times when I noticed that I was stressed about the environment was, I don't know if you've heard, there's this song by Little Dicky that's like about, I think it's called Earth, and it's literally just like, I think it came out a couple years ago, and it's just like him preaching that we need to care for the earth, and it's got like a bunch of like, you know, current artists or whatever. And I remember when I heard that song, I literally started bawling. I was like, oh my God, we need to care for the earth.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out. Damn.
And it's like a good song. Like I enjoyed listening to it, but I just remember the first time I heard it, I like watched the video as well, and I was just like, we love the earth. And it's just like a sweet little song. But I feel like, especially whenever you're like worried about something, as long as you're like, you know, you've got the ways that you got to like notice what you do and like promote it.
Yeah, even if it's
I also love Meatless Mondays. I'm gonna definitely do that.
Yeah, definitely get on that. It's honestly, it helps. Like it lets you feel like you're trying. You're trying to do something, right? And once you start like seeing all the different meals that you can get without meat, and even obviously going vegan as well, if you can, once you find those recipes that work for you, honestly, you wouldn't want
so good. Also, there's so many, like now that it's like, you know, it's like it's kind of fashion now to be vegan.
Yeah.
But like now that it is, there's so many meat alternatives, and it's so good. Like, because like I said before, like whenever I eat at home, I try to not eat. Like whenever I cook at home, I try to not eat meat. But now that I've moved into London, I eat out quite a lot. So I end up eating a lot more meat. But there's so many like meat alternatives as well. And they're all actually like, a lot of them are so yummy.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't usually go for meatless options, but nowadays I feel like they are so close to the genuine like meat flavor. Why wouldn't you?
Exactly. Honestly, there's this thing that's like, I think the company is called What the Cluck, and they make this chicken, and I was shook. I was like, this is real good chicken, but it's like not chicken. It's like ficken, you know, it's like fake chicken, and it's so good.
That is so cool, ficken. I love that. I love that. Yeah.
That's how we started calling it in my flat, because basically, like in the flat, I was kind of like one of the only ones that was basically like not trying to not eat meat. And every time I'd have like a new fake meat, we'd be like, it's, you know, it's ficken. They'd be like, oh yeah, Mish has ficken nuggets today. And I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah. Getting everyone on board with some ficken. That's cool.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good ficken, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really key as well that you raised that music. I mean, I know it sort of, I guess, acted like a trigger that was like, I guess, showed you the sort of like how severe the situation was. But I think it's also a key thing to point as well that other industries do like things that like help promote like sustainable living. So I know like I've worked with a group called Leo, and I think Sam's met them. They do like eco music, so their music is all about like promoting sustainable living. They both have like change their lifestyles to be more sustainable, but they also, with their music, they want to like use that as a platform to do it, and it's been really good. But I know, like you said as well, like other celebrities have used music as a way, and I think that's like a key thing to point, because it is a key thing to do. And I think, kind of like you were saying, is that sometimes, and I think it's like with any song, like people say always, if it's got a catchy beat, most of the time people don't pay attention to the lyrics. Like I know like Childish Gambino released a song, I don't remember when it came out, but it's called like Feels Like Summer. And I had like no idea that song was literally about like climate change, overpopulation, and like other stuff. But then when I saw it, I was just like, if you actually listen to the lyrics, you're just like, yeah, oh damn, like. It was like, no, he's generally talking about that. And I know one of my sister's like favorite Michael Jackson song. Oh, what is it called? I think it's called Heal the Earth. I think it is. But Michael Jackson had a song about it as well. And like, it kind of shows you like when you go back and you actually listen to some music, like people were saying, like have been saying, and I know we discussed it before, like people have been saying for ages, like this is an issue. And it's good to see, I think, like you said, like especially nowadays, that more industries are doing things to like raise awareness of it. It's not just the case of, you know, if you release a song about like, I don't know, you have to call it like climate change or stuff like that for people to listen to it. Or, you know, if it doesn't have like a great beat, people won't like it. But using your platform as like a way to raise awareness of these issues is definitely really good. And I would say nicely leads us on to our MC of the month. So our MC for today, you know, it was very, like I said before, it was very hard to pick one because, like Michelle said, environmental anxiety is kind of a new. I mean, it's a newly, like Michelle said, it's not something new that people haven't experienced, but it's new in the sense that it's actually got a definition and it's got something that people now define. But one of the people that I saw through my research was, and again, I apologize in advance. You know, if she hears this podcast, great, but I apologize because I will 100% get this wrong. But her name is Elizabeth, I think it's Wathuti. I think that's her name. But she's a 23-year-old environmental enthusiast from Kenya. She's been doing a lot of great work. She's actually, I think in early 2020, before COVID, you know, hit and we had to, everything literally got shut. I know Greta and some environmental enthusiasts went to a conference. I think it was a UN conference, and I think she was there as well. But she's on the UN's like environmental program that they do. She is one of their young champions of the earth. So that's basically individuals, sort of like Greta, that raise awareness of you know, environmental issues. And the reason why I picked her is because sort of like, you know, what we discussed with our previous episodes about representation is individuals like herself, like Elizabeth and others, are sometimes underrepresented in media, you know, and they don't necessarily get this platform where they do get to speak about their work. But also, what I think is really good is she set up this initiative. They're called Green Generation Initiative, and there'll be, you know, a link to find out more about them on our website. But essentially, they're this youth group, or this group that's mainly based in Kenya, but they do a whole host of different things to promote green living and, you know, encouraging the next generation to be green. So they have a Adopt a Tree campaign, they do environmental education, they do food forests, they have a whole host of stuff. And what's really interesting is they were only established like 5 years ago. They were founded in 2016, and they, you know, if you see the work that they've done, literally even in Kenya, you know, their vision, which I think is really important, is to nurture an environmentally conscious generation. And I think that's definitely something that we as a podcast and we as individuals, you know, love. But yeah, the reason why I picked her for environmental anxiety is she was asked as a part of a Guardian article talking about, you know, environmental anxiety about it. And she highlighted that it's, you know, her experience of it is not so much about the future necessarily, because obviously I know, like we said here, everyone's got different experiences, and you've heard from all four of us and even Michelle about how we all have felt about environmental anxiety. But one of the key things that she raised there was, you know, it's for her, it's more about what's happening now. And she said, and, you know, this is quoting what she said people in African countries experience eco anxiety, which is the same as environmental anxiety. They experience it differently because climate change for African nations is about the impacts that we're already facing and experiencing, and the possibilities of the situation getting worse. So, you know, obviously, like we said it before, countries, African countries and Asian countries will be the ones that experience these effects of climate change first and foremost. So like she said there, I think it's really key that she's raised that as an issue, and she's using her platform and, you know, the Green Generation Initiative to help, you know, mitigate this and encourage the next generation to be very environmentally conscious. But yeah, I think that's a perfect note to end on. So yeah, thank you very much, Michelle, as always, for being a wonderful guest.
Yeah, thank you so much. She has been star guest. Her in the camo, she's hiding, but she's there.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
And I think, as a group, we've learned more about environmental anxiety. And I think especially with the question that you asked about, how it's affected us as individuals is definitely super key, because I don't think any of us, would have truly have thought about that. I know personally, I haven't thought too much about it. But when you sent the question over, I'm sure all of us really did, think about it. And thank you for that. I guess I know you said before that you've got an Instagram page and a product page. So for anyone listening, where could they find out more about Michelle, and where like I said before, we talked about that slogan. So where could they find out about the future of where you're going, Michelle?
Well, you can find out more about me under mishfish_design. I've also got a LinkedIn. Michelle Sambo. Send me an email.
So if there's anyone listening, especially if there's any organizations listening, get in contact with Michelle, because as you can see, she's doing amazing work, and she's tackling a very important issue. But as always, it's been a pleasure, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and keep an eye out for our next episode. So it's bye from us, and we wish you all a pleasant day.